Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If it's your first time here, thank you for joining us. If you're a returning subscriber, then thank you for also continuing to watch. So January is officially over and today's actually the 1st of February, and this is Brighton and we decided that we are going to share on what?
We're going to be talking about discipline and the importance of discipline as we're going along, and just wondering, everyone who's watching, how many of you are still sticking to those New Year's resolutions you made some 30 odd days ago? And if you are, good on you, and if not, maybe it's time to get back onto them and keep going. It's not too late. It's still early on in the year. Now we're going to talk about discipline. Now before we start, maybe just to clarify, there is a difference between discipline and motivation, and these two things tend to get crossed or to get mixed up or to be put together when they are really quite separate things. Now, when we talk of motivation, we're talking about your reason for doing and that feeling to do something, why you want to do it. Why are you doing this? I'm motivated because of X, Y, Z. Okay, you're motivated to do this. That's your motivation. That's your push, your reason for doing something. Then you have the actual discipline. And this is what we're focusing on today. And discipline is the actual actions you take on a daily basis or consistently that help you achieve that thing you are motivated to achieve. So you see that the two things are separate, and the best situation is when you've got them both together. You've got motivation, you've got the right kind of motivation, and you are disciplined, and then you are a force to reckon with.
That is so true. And as we were doing our research when we wanted to do this video, we found that 80% of people who make New Year's resolutions, they ditch them by the time they get to the 1st of February. That is quite interesting. And like Brighton is saying, you need to know the difference. Are you using motivation or you're using discipline to show up through the year? So these are the few tips that we're going to be sharing with you, and we hope that they will help you as you go through the year to stay disciplined. So number one, have a plan.
Yeah, it's very important. And maybe before we get too far into, just a disclaimer, we're not perfect at this. We're really just people, who are trying to implement these things in our lives. And when we have done them for a sustainable period of time, we've seen that they work. But being people, we can tend to fall off the wagon. So we're just trying to encourage each other here, not coming from any place of superiority or anything like that. Now, speaking of a plan, having a plan is really important, because if a plan is like setting out your direction, setting your compass, getting it focused. So if I want to get to a certain point, I'm going to move in this direction. And to move in this direction, I'm going to need to do X, Y, Z. These are the milestones along the way that will help me know if I am on track to reach my goal. And once you've got that, then you know that, okay, this is the plan. You may not execute it exactly as you wrote it out, but it helps you, because at every time you can always check back with it and say, okay, according to my plan, where am I? How far have I gone? So the plan helps you, and it's like a motivational thing that you can keep track of where you're going, because without that, you can lose that motivation. You can lose that desire, that oomph, to keep going, because you're just like, oh my God, this is overwhelming. I don't know where I'm at. I may never reach this goal. But the plan, when you have it set up at the beginning, it really helps you get going in the right direction.
Yes, and the verse we always we love sharing is write your vision and make it plain,
so that he who reads it may run with it. So it really goes to show that when the vision is clear, when the plan is clear, you are going to not just walk, you're going to run, because you've got that energy. You know what you're doing. Because whenever you're uncertain, you tend to be unsure, you tend to tread uncertainty. But when you know the vision is clear, you just go.
Okay, and number two, follow a routine.
I think routine is really important, and routine goes to, I think it embodies discipline. It makes it so much easier, because if we look at our lives, whatever we do, whether you realize it or not, your life follows some kind of routine. And it now depends, what kind of routine is it? Is it a routine that is beneficial? Is the routine that is maybe detrimental to your well-being, to your health, and to your achievement of your goals? So it's really important to have a routine, and we're going back to that plan we were talking about earlier. When you've got your plan set up, it then dictates how you structure your routine. Do you wake up at a certain time? What do you do after you wake up? Those small steps that help you throughout the day, because it's very difficult to think long term, but you can think in the next 12 to 14 hours, what am I going to do? I've woken up, I've read my Bible, I've taken a shower, I've eaten, I'm on my commute to work. then I'm doing this between my lunch break, then I'm doing this at the end of the day, then what am I doing for my spare time? I need to do XYZ so I can get closer to my goal. So that helps you. And when you have it routine, when it's every day, your body gets into a rhythm, so it becomes there's less effort required to do the same things. And when there's less effort required, it's a lot easier, and you're just inching towards your goal, so it makes life a lot easier for you.
Yeah, and it helps with time management because you're able to actually see how much time you have to complete your goals. As Brighton has mentioned, that when you have a routine, it becomes a rhythm. And we know a new habit takes 21 days, I think. The 21 to 63, okay, there's a debate on it, on how long it takes you to develop a new habit. But as he mentioned, the more you do it, the more it becomes easier. So having a routine will help you with that. Then our third point is have an accountability partner.
Yes, I think that's a really important one, having an accountability partner. And again, it all falls down to things that you can put into your plan. I want to do this, and I'm going to, these are the small, on a daily basis, I'm going to be doing XYZ. And on top of that, I'm going to have somebody who can check up on me quite regularly or frequently to say, hey, where are you at? How are you going? Are you still on track? And what helps with that is sometimes you're not always going to feel like doing it.
You're going half the time.
We get sick, we hear bad news, we just have a bad day, you wake up on the wrong side of bed. All these things can happen, and they do happen to us. So having that somebody who checks up on you, it's a good way. It's almost like when we were growing up, you did certain things, you were trained to do certain things, like to clean the house, do your chores, but you didn't always want to. Half the time you never wanted to, but you knew, hey, there's mom, there's dad who's going to be hounding me and saying, hey, how far are you with that? So for that they were like accountability partners in a sense. So you need someone who's like that. But maybe as you're older, you get to pick who your accountability partner is. So maybe if it's someone you respect, someone you admire, someone who you would it really boosts you to have their approval, and you don't want to disappoint them. Maybe it's a mentor, someone you'd like to be like, or you'd like to model certain aspects of your life to theirs. Maybe they're successful in something, and you want, if they can help you, and you'd be like, you know what, this person is coming, he's checking on me, and they've done this and it's worked, so I know I need to get back on that wagon. So it helps you stay on track. So it's really important to have some kind of accountability partner. It can even be your spouse, it can be anybody.
And then our next step is baby steps. Baby steps are always important. I think sometimes we set unrealistic goals for ourselves that are hard to attain. So make sure that you give yourself that grace to say, you know what, I'm starting from this point and I increase it as time goes on. And that way it helps you not to overcommit or not to feel drained, exhausted, or overwhelmed if you set those baby steps.
Yes, baby steps are so crucial to the whole process, because like we said, you're not always going to feel like doing certain things. But when you start out, you want to make things as easy as possible, but moving in the right direction of that plan you would have had set up. So if, take for example, I like the analogy you've mentioned before about when you were relearning to drive. You had to overcome your anxieties and your fears. And what we started with was, look, it's challenging for you to go out on even no matter whatever the journey was, even if it's just to the supermarket, whatever it may be, it was challenging for you. But we said, let's take it baby step at a time. So just get into the car and drive it to the gate. That's it, 100 meters, nothing fancy, nothing far, there's no traffic you're encountering, and you've done that. And that's a win. You're moving in the right direction towards driving, you've checked the box, you've driven, and you've done it successfully. So you got a win. Then the next day, maybe just add another 100 meters. And before you know it, I think for you it took like about 2 or 3 weeks, and in that time you were pretty much cured or healed.
And the first days I used to freak out, and like he's saying, it's so true. Just give yourself a small challenge to say, this is what I'm going to try. And I hear that when I was reading on it, it was saying it actually helps because your brain will not go into flight mode when you set something that you can attain. But when you set something that is too big for your brain, it will start telling you you may face danger, so your body goes into flight mode. I remember when we started off, because it had been a journey. At first, we tried to set unrealistic goals, like the distance was too far, and I found myself having back pain because as I was driving, I was in flight mode. But when we set those realistic goals to just say 100 meters, a kilometer, 5 kilometers, it was attainable, and I found my body started relaxing and it made a difference. So definitely, whatever goal you're setting for yourself, make sure that it's a smart goal, right? And sustainable, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time bound. Yeah, so time bound. Make sure you also set a time to say, from this time to maybe in the next 2 weeks, I need to start seeing a certain change. And when you don't see that change, go back and reflect, which takes us to our next point. It is always important to reflect and evaluate.
Yes, that's so true. Because when you're looking at, again, we're going back to that starting point, you've got that plan. And you, like we're saying, along the way, you need to see where are you relative to that plan that you set up, because you've got your ultimate goal. That's the thing you're going for. But where are you along the way? And once you've got that, when you reflect, maybe you can even, as part of your plan, you can say maybe once a week or once a fortnight, once a month, I will reflect on this and really analyze and look, where am I and how am I tracking towards that goal? So it's really helpful, because you get to, without going too far down the road, you get to make the necessary tweaking and fine-tuning that you may need to do, because you may, like we said, you're never going to follow your plan that you've written out word for word or step by step. You may find after a month that you say, you know what, doing XYZ every single day, or doing this for this long for 1 hour, maybe I need to up it, or I need to reduce it to make to where it's comfortable that you're not overwhelmed and you're not doing anything, but to a point where it's enough for you to move towards that goal. And then that way, when you're tweaking it and massaging it and getting it to the right fit, that allows you to continuously grow and sustainably. That way, the tracking and the reflection helps. And I think this can also be meshed in with your mentor or your accountability partner when you discuss these things. And that's another opportunity to reflect and say, okay, how are you tracking? How are you going? And you can actually say, I'm having trouble with this, or this is a bit challenging. Oh, why don't you do this? Why don't you try that? And that way you're again doing something that moves you towards your goal.
Yeah, and the next one is give yourself grace. That is so important. Don't beat yourself up the days that you fail, because you will have days that you fail. No one is perfect. You're starting a new habit. It's the beginning of the year. Get back up and try again. I think sometimes we beat ourselves up and we end up giving up because we just think, oh, this is not going to work. And remember, your mind plays a huge role on what you think is what you become. So the moment you start telling yourself, I can't do it, your body also tells you every time you're faced with that situation that you cannot do it. So make sure that in the times that you fail, give yourself that grace and get back up and try again, and use that failure as a lesson to say, where can I improve? Where can I do better? And that's a good way to then continue throughout the year.
Yeah, and on that, I think it's important to never, they say comparison is the thief of joy. And I think that can bring some of that depressing mood when you're looking and, man, everybody else is doing this, everybody else is doing that, and look at where I am. I'm just starting out and I'm confused. I don't even know what I'm doing. But what we all know is we all start out not knowing what we're doing. We were all babies once. We all couldn't walk. We all couldn't talk. Yet here we are. Some got there faster. Some got there, took a little bit more time. But we got there in the end.
We're all there,
yes.
Now.
So don't compare your chapter 1 with someone else's chapter 20 in their story, in their life. So really, be kind to yourself. Be realistic with yourself. And that way it helps you. You're not being hard on yourself, because it's hard enough learning something new, and you don't need yourself putting pressure on you. Be patient with yourself. Look, you didn't get it, but that's why we talked about the baby steps and those small wins. Focus on that. Focus on anything that motivates you, that encourages you, that helps you move towards that goal.
Yes. So our next step is read and learn about the goals you want to achieve.
Yeah, this is really, really important. I think it's, again, part of that planning. You really need, because you don't know what you don't know. And whenever you're starting something new, you need to find a lot of information. A lot of it is learning, because you are learning a new skill, a new way of doing things, a new approach to life in general. So you really need to be willing to put in the time to learn, to be a student, to humble yourself and acknowledge, I don't know what I'm doing here. And there are people who know better, and I can get this information, and it's going to take me time to pick up on it. So it's really important. And you find that if you're doing something for the right reason, you get to enjoy even the learning process. It's not always fun learning the basic stuff, but as you're getting those small wins, that you're adding that little knowledge you had to on top of more knowledge, and before long, usually when you learn, like maybe it can be a subject, maybe you're studying, I don't know, psychology or counseling when you're now a grown up and you're changing careers, whatever it could be. And then in this particular field, there are all these new words that they use that are specific to that field and you've never heard them before. You just pick up on one word, get it and understand it, and you can use it in your daily life. You got it down. Pick up another word, and before long, you're comfortable in those areas where people are talking about those, psychodynamic and whatever other words they use, and you're like, oh no, I know what that means, I understand what they're talking about. So, it really is important to research, and again, giving yourself that grace and that patience at that time.
Yeah, and maybe you can share the example you shared with me about the guy who decided he wanted to learn how to invest. And he spent a few years making sure that everything that he read or learned was on investment. Maybe you can share it.
Yeah, there's this guy. I think he runs a YouTube channel called Valuetainment. I think he's a big investment guy. His name is Patrick Bet David. You should check out his channel. It's called Valuetainment. He's really good content there. And I think he was in the U.S. military, and then after that he left, and then he was looking, what should I do? Then he decided to go into investing, and then he just started reading up. He read 2,000 books. All of them were just geared towards investing, something to do with investing. 2,000 books, and by then he was an expert. Then he broke out, he started his own company, and then he became this multi-millionaire, and he's now gone into this entertainment space, and so he's really doing great things. But the point is, he really dove into that study, immersed himself completely into learning, and he came out an expert. And he even says he was an average student, a C grade student at best when he was in high school. So you really see, it's not about your IQ. It's about that motivation, that drive, and that discipline, and showing up every single day.
I think it's important, like you were mentioning, that it's not about your IQ. I think sometimes we genuinely compare ourselves with people without realizing the work that they put in. We see the results and we think, oh, they're better than me. But you don't realize that what makes them different from you is they showed up every single day. I think in our previous video, we talked about John Maxwell, what he says, that every day do something that gets you closer to your goal, like something that improves your skill. If you're wasting time, spending time on social media, spending time with friends and not putting in the work, then the results will always be the same. But if you actually are intentional and you say to yourself, you know what, if they can do it, I can do it, really. Because at the end of the day, I think like what Brighton was sharing, to say, there are some people who went before you, but at the end of the day, you reached that place that they are because you put in the work. I think sometimes we are afraid to be students. We just want to be the teacher. You need to make sure you allow yourself to go through that process of saying and actually admitting, I don't know this. Can you help me with this? Because I think sometimes we are afraid to be foolish. You always talk about what helps you. So something about Brighton is he reads a lot, and it used to annoy me at the beginning. I didn't realize that I was the one with the problem. But he said to me the other day, the assumption that people make is I know everything, but they don't realize that I just learned the things that I know. Like I spent time reading. Okay, I can't say it the way that you say it, and you're giving me that eye is that the way I said it? But you said something about I'm not afraid to look foolish. I'm not afraid to ask and say, I don't know this. And there are times they have said, what? You don't know? And I'm like so excited. Okay, now I'm teaching you something. And he says, Anna, the difference between me and you is I am willing to learn. I'm not afraid to admit that I don't know something. So as you're going through your goals for the year, don't be an expert at everything. Admit that I need help in this. Can you help me? I don't even understand what you're saying. Like you talked about words, vocabulary. There's some words that you can assume that you know. But when someone asks you, do you actually know what it means? You're like, oh my bad, I don't even know. So be willing to admit where your weaknesses are, where you do not understand something, and do the extra work of doing the research, which takes us to our next point. Boundaries. Boundaries are important. Maybe you can explain that.
Boundaries. Okay, I was going to say, maybe just before we moved on to boundaries, I was just going to say, I think we're talking about the showing up and this research and the studying. I think one thing that's important in the world we live in today, there is just so much noise out there, and being on social media, people are just shouting out, showing off. They've done something, they take 5 seconds of the best 5 seconds of their entire day, then they show it as if that's just their everyday life, and then you're just thinking, oh my god. You really need to get to a point where you realize that that research and that show up in silence, disappear. We don't need to see you reading your 2,000 books. We don't need to see you going to the gym every morning at 5. We don't need to see you jogging every morning at 5:30. We don't need to see you staying up late studying for those exams. What we need, and the best thing for you, is to go away and do it in silence. Then show up. Maybe it's a diploma, you'll be holding up a master's degree. Maybe it's a bikini board, I don't know, a beach board, whatever it may be. Maybe it's a new business, a thriving business, whatever it may be. Show up with results. Because that way, you avoid a lot of noise, because people can easily discourage you. Because people are intimidated by people who are trying to do something and make something of their lives. So it's really important that you realize that, look, people are criticizing me and saying all these negative things out of fear. So the best way is to stay away from that environment. Stay away. Just go under the radar. Do your things in silence. And then people just see, whoa, when did you buy that house? Whoa, when did you buy that new car? Hey, when did you move to America? When did you get that new job? What's going on? Don't tell people, oh, I'm applying for jobs, oh, I'm doing this. People, oh man, you're never going to get it. Oh, you can't do it, because they're intimidated. So then really do all these things that protect you and allow you to be best positioned to achieve your goals. So move in silence.
Yeah, and then the boundaries.
In terms of
learn to say no. Like as you are achieving your goals or setting your goals, there's some things that you need to say no to. Like if you have to read books, it means that maybe when you were going out a lot, you need to start saying no. So boundaries are important. Make sure that you don't also overcommit, like we mentioned before, by trying to be everything for everyone. You don't then leave enough time for you to do the things that you need to do in your own life to improve. Like we always say, you can't give from an empty cup. Make sure that you are also growing as you are helping other people, because sometimes we give more to people than we take care of ourselves, and in the end you have that resentment to say, I showed up for this person, they didn't do the same for me. It's because you didn't have boundaries. Make sure that you learn to say no. If it's not aligned with your goals, it can come another time. It may be something good, but it always has to align with your goals for the year.
Yeah, and that reminds me, I was listening to Jim Rohn. It's a great motivational speaker from back in the day. And he said something that I think is really applicable. He says, I used to think people would say, care of me and I'll take care of you. And that seemed to be the general sentiment. And then he was like, no, there's something wrong with that. The better way to look at it and to put it is, I will take care of me for you, and you take care of you for me. So that way you get to understand where to draw the line. Yeah. I need to do this so that I'm not a burden on you. I need to do X, Y, Z. I cannot do this because if I do this, then later on I'm going to be coming and screaming and crying, and then you're going to have to put down whatever you're doing so you can pick me up. So let me lift myself up so that you don't have to. And when I can lift myself up, I am stronger and I am more capable of lifting others around me. So it's really important to know where to draw that line to say, you know what, in as much as the sentiment is good, I would really love to do this with all my heart, genuinely. I think it's a great effort. It's really powerful what you guys are doing, what you want to do. But at the moment, I just cannot. I do not have capacity. And I know in life, some people can make you feel bad about saying no. But what I've realized, the older I get, that I tend to care less. And I think that is really, it's a blessing, because you can want to please somebody, but it doesn't benefit anybody when a few months down the line you're miserable, you're depressed, you're bitter, you're angry, but you can't lash out because they'll be like, wait a minute, you're grown up, you said yes, no one held a gun to your head. So you really need to have that strength of character, to be just say, look, as much as I would love to, the answer is no for now, maybe later. And I think that way it really, again, it's those protections that allow you to do what you set out to do, because I'm telling you, there are a million things to do out there. You can't do all of them. Yeah,
that's true. And our last point is rest. Take care of your body. It goes with what he said. Listen to your body. I think a lot of times we do not listen to our body. And for people like me, we came from a culture, maybe with you too, maybe you can confirm, but we come from a culture that says work hard. work hard, you're being lazy, if you're chilling, if you're sleeping and everything, but your body also needs to rest. And when you rest, make sure that it's not just physical rest, but mental health. You can't be resting physically when in your mind you're overthinking and you're thinking of things that are out of your control. You wouldn't have gotten the rest that you need. So switch off. If you need to get off your phone, stay off social media, rest. And then when you wake up the next day, or when you get enough sleep, I never used to appreciate sleep until I got to this point where I'm like, wow, it actually makes a difference to get those hours of sleep. You wake up in a better mood, you're refreshed, you're better, you are more productive than when you spend less hours sleeping. So it is so important.
Yeah, and I think we were talking about this earlier. You're talking about the rest. Rest is so crucial now, and you said it. You just said it just now, that stay away from social media. But I think we need to be a bit more specific, and we're talking about this earlier, that because YouTube is a form of social media, WhatsApp is a form of social media, but there is social media, then there is social media, and we're talking about that social media, or the aspects of social media that are detrimental to your life. When we're saying rest, you don't go and sit down on your couch or lay down in your bed and then you're scrolling through your Instagram reels or your YouTube shorts. Now, doing that, you're not resting. Your mind is in overdrive. And we're just talking about how addictive those reels and those shorts are. You've got someone who they come up with some great quote or some great analogy or something they've seen and they've filmed out there, and you'll be like, wow, that is amazing. And genuinely speaking, it will be something amazing and like, wow, that's mind blowing. And your mind is maybe capable of handling one or two of such messages in a day. Then here you are exhausted, you're tired at the end of a long day or week, and here you are just like, let me just lie down and let me just scroll through. And then bam, wow, that was amazing. Bam, oh my God, wow. And before you know it, you spent an hour and you're just like, your mind is just, you haven't rested. You're probably worse off than just put your phone on the side and just close your eyes and gotten maybe half an hour nap or an hour nap, whatever it may be. You really need to protect your mental health and your mental well-being, because it's as important as your physical health. Get your body to rest, get your mind to rest, so that when you are awake and fully awake, you are there, you are present, and you're attentive. Because and you're saving time again, because like we're saying with those reels, they are addictive. The algorithms are bottomless. You will never get to the end and say, oh, we've got no more reels. They will just keep chucking them in there, and you'll be like, wow, oh, I don't like that, oh, that's nice, oh, I don't like that, that's nice. And they're so short that you'll be like, oh, what's one more? And before you know it, an hour has gone by, 2 hours has gone by. So we really need to be careful and guard our hearts and minds in that respect.
That is so true. And yeah, we're actually talking about it today, that he was telling me there's now this thing called social dementia or something like that, where people are actually having memory problems because of spending so much time on social media. And I think we know ourselves, where you struggle, most times your body is telling you need a break, you need to stay away from social media, whatever it is. And honestly, you're not missing out on anything. I know sometimes you think, oh my gosh, what if I miss out on this and that? But it is good, because it also teaches you self-control. You can't be everywhere for everyone at the same time. You need to make sure you are taking care of yourself throughout the year. And as they say, health is very important, because once you're healthy enough, you are productive. I guess this is it. I don't know if you have anything to add.
No, I think guys, again, we're talking about discipline and just trying to stay focused on that. Yeah, and if you really just get on that journey and stay on it and be consistent, I really think you'll be surprised what you will achieve and what you're able to do. So, just hang in there and keep going. And we will also try and hang in there and stick to what we are doing, because, like we said, we're not perfect. We do fall off the wagon, but we're just all trying to encourage each other, support each other, and hopefully we can be better off at the end of the day.
Yes, so thank you. If you've gotten to the end of the video, thank you for watching, and do not forget to like, share, and subscribe. Bye for now.
Cheers.